Hello everyone and welcome back to another instalment of the Warwick F1 Show. We're approaching this sort of autumn break that we seem to have this season for 2024, and so we thought we'd have some time to make some special episodes just before we get to the preview of Austin. And we all have those tracks in the calendar where we think, oh, this is going to produce an absolute classic we get incredibly excited for. And then we also have those tracks that we know that is going to produce an absolutely miserable race and never get excited for. I'm looking at you, Abu Dhabi, of course. And so we thought we'd take this opportunity to go through and make our ideal race calendar if we ever had control of F1. I'm joined once again by our Society President, Katch. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
So essentially what we've done is we've gone through and created just a list of our ideal races, not in any particular order as such, and we're just going to take some time today to discuss those, see which ones that we've both agreed on, see which ones we might have left out. And to start with as well, we've obviously needed to choose the length of our race calendar, as I think most people would agree that the current amount of races we have is probably a bit too much.
Yes.
We have, 24 something? Yeah, 24 races.
And there are threats for it to go more, which is not healthy and it is not possible. So we haven't, as Callum mentioned, we haven't done it with specific dates in mind. However, I'm assuming we're all in agreement that the calendar would run from March until end of November. Therefore, you have that time span. And we don't want it to pile in. We need a 4-week summer break. So, again, we do not want it to be too packed. We would not want any triple headers. We haven't considered that, though, yeah, it was likely if we were to ever be put in charge of the calendar, the orders would be a bit different from what we're saying right now. But these are just tracks that we think have either value for us or that would be really good for racing, or just iconic tracks that you cannot miss off a calendar in Formula One.
And we should mention that's not even including the sprint races as well. That is.
Yeah, there would be no sprint races in my calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we might just keep it at the same format and not just keep trialling out this sprint format, which we've been trialling now for about 4 years. But we'll get straight to it. So my race calendar was 16 races long, probably on the shorter end of acceptability. I just think that you need to add more value to each race, if that makes sense, because obviously the points that you'll get from each individual race is a higher proportion of the overall points available. And you have gone shorter, but you've gone 19. I think that's both in the range of acceptability.
Yes, I think if it is too long, for example, 24 is way too long, but because of how big Formula One is, you can't have it incredibly short. I think 16 is good. It is on the shorter end, but I think it does add the value. You can obviously have 8 before, 8 after the summer break, and it would still be exciting. You could have gaps. It would be easy for everyone, but it would give more value, as you've mentioned. So I think my 19, there's just so many tracks that I think deserve a place on a calendar. So one possible way of, if we wanted a shorter calendar, which has been proposed before, is a rotation of races, especially within Europe. So you have, for example, Austria 1 year and Hungary the next year, and then it kind of swaps like that. So that is a possibility if we wanted a shorter calendar, but to include many tracks and many countries. So there are options, but I think anywhere between the range of 16 to 20, I think is a good amount for me.
That does not bring in the money, though, of course.
Of course.
Which we might have other priorities if we were on the very extreme slim possibility that we actually run F1. But I think, yeah, like you said, anywhere in between 16 and 20 is a good possibility. You did have 20, but then I think you made a last-minute decision to remove Catalonia, which we'll get onto. We'll quickly run through the ones that we've both had on our calendar, because obviously we've made each of ours separately. And I think a lot of these you could agree, to be honest. Sao Paulo is an obvious one.
Yes, it's an iconic one. It always produces, or mostly produces, good races.
Indeed. Austin, Singapore. We were quite surprised how boring the Singapore race was. You can hear all about that in our Singapore review after this episode.
But Singapore is such
a
good
yes,
track.
That's what we were surprised, because it always produces, doesn't it? It's
even if the races and the overtaking, like the overtaking isn't incredible around that track, but it is so mesmerising in a way because it's a night race. It was the first night race, and it holds value in that sense, and it would be a shame if it wasn't on a calendar. So especially the thing, when the teams and drivers go to Singapore, it's always a good time. I think the aura around that track and around that country is so good, and everything gets uplifted for Formula One when it comes, that for places like that, you need them on the calendar.
And it's a very challenging track for the drivers as well, because we know it's kind of the race that they all build up to with the conditions, with the humidity and the heat that really challenges the drivers, and also the nature of the track, obviously. Azerbaijan, I think that's a great street circuit. We just had probably one of, if not the best race of this season in Baku. Monza, Spa is an interesting one. I've heard a lot of discussion around Spa. I hold a soft spot for Spa in my heart. I think even though it sometimes doesn't produce the best races, I think it's such a great driver's track, and it's got so many iconic sections, obviously Eau Rouge and different parts like that. And I think you could never not have it on the calendar, really.
Yeah, there have been discussions about removing it, and I don't. Sure, financially, maybe Formula One would want to go to areas and places instead of Spa that would bring in more money, but it's just so historical. And like you've mentioned, it has iconic places, and it's great for the drivers that they love going there. That I think having it on a calendar, for me, is a certainty. We have to have. It would not be a modern day Formula One season if we didn't have Spa.
No, I completely agree. Silverstone as well. I think I'd
that could go without saying.
I'd happily have Silverstone, like 3 races at Silverstone per season. I could increase it to 19 by just putting Silverstone on there 3 more times. But yes, that's obvious. Montreal, I think, is really good. I think that's another very challenging one for the drivers, with it being very close to the wall. And Japan, obviously, again.
Suzuka's just fun.
Suzuka is very fun. Albert Park, I think that's an interesting one, because that's another, like, I do feel that sometimes Albert Park is hyped up a bit too much, because it is just the first race of the season, or it has been in previous seasons.
But I think it's a good first race. I wanted to include it because it's a good first race, because otherwise where would we go? To Bahrain? No, I don't want Bahrain as the first race again. I'm good. You go across all the way to Australia. Sure, it's not great time zone wise for us in Europe, but it's just fun. You get the excitement of the first race of the season.
Well, hear me out. Do you not think that you need maybe a mid-race for the first race of the season?
Yeah.
Because then that hypes up, so it is good, rather than putting, you can't imagine putting Silverstone at the first race of the season. That would not. I don't think that would work.
No. And you need. I think Albert Park also is. It's not a big. So it's not a track that is extremely challenging for the drivers, so we're going to get a lot of chaos. And it's a good way to ease them into it as well, because you've got to think these drivers, apart from pre-season testing, have not driven competitively in months. They've had their off-season. So it's a good balanced track where you don't know who's going to come out on top. It's exciting. You don't want it to be too challenging. You want a representative first track. And first race.
You don't want a track, say, like Monaco, which is has very one type of corner, and you want it to be a bit of a mixture. And I think Albert Park, as you said, does strike a good balance there. Bahrain, I think as well. We both have Malaysia, which I can't remember why that was removed after 2017. But
because of the organisations.
The organisations, I think I'd happily have that back.
I think it's known as one of the tracks that people want back, and I think it is true. It was a good. I wasn't watching Formula One at the time where Sepang was on the circuit, was on the calendar, but I still think it's an incredible track, and watching highlights and races from there, it's a shame that it's not on the calendar anymore. And when I was researching for creating my calendar, I saw that I think in April it was bought by new people, the circuit was, so they're looking at possibly trying to get it back on the calendar.
That would be very exciting. And as well, unlike a lot of the races, I should say for Malaysia, unlike a lot of the races on the calendar at the moment, it is very much appropriate for the current generation of F1 cars, because I think it's something like 20 metres in width at its maximum and 12 metres at its minimum. I can't remember where I'm getting that
I
from.
have no idea.
But it's certainly, compared to places like Monaco, for example, it's definitely appropriate and can deliver some good races, as we've seen from the highlights. And then Monaco I have as the last one on there that we both have. I was very much debating Monaco. In
What?
I've got to say I did not include it in my first draft, and then I put it back on there.
Yes.
So I just think that it is too narrow and it's too small
It
for the current
is.
generation of cars. But I think the way that doesn't mean I don't want to race in Monaco, and that's why I put it back on there, because it's such an iconic track. So I think it's more the way of you should make the cars smaller
Yeah.
rather than not race at Monaco.
I think definitely the 26 cars are going to get smaller anyway. Not by much, but they are going to get smaller. But for me, Monaco stayed. It was in my first draft. I had to have Monaco because, in my opinion, like Silverstone, like Sao Paulo, like Spa, it's one of the tracks that you do think of when it comes to Formula One. When you talk to a non-Formula One fan and you mention the sport, they're like, oh yeah, they go to Monaco. It's known as a Formula One place, and it would just be such a shame to have it off the calendar, especially if we're thinking logistics. A lot of the drivers live there, so it's pretty good for the environment to go there. So that would be a great thing. It also brings in money, so it's just
Brings in a lot.
it brings in a lot of money. But for the race, it's a bit boring. But for the qualifying, it's great, and it has to be on there. You just need to change the cars.
Yeah, no, indeed. So that's the 13 racetracks that we both have on our calendars, and I think a lot of the ones that we've mentioned would be on a lot of other people's calendars, and also ones that I think we should say now that both of us haven't included as well. Miami. It's that's just not really.
So I like Miami.
Is that by any chance because Norris won his first race there?
No, of course it's not. Yes, it is completely. It's a bit of a boring one. But it's better than some of the tracks we've raced at before. But it is, yeah, I wouldn't be sad to see it go.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those just set-up tracks. It's more for the money more than anything else, I think.
Yes.
Catalonia, which you almost had on there. I think Catalonia is a weird one for me. It just doesn't really. There's nothing about it, I don't think, that says that it shouldn't give good races. But it just doesn't really deliver very good races. I think maybe one was it 2016 when the two Mercedes crashed? I think that's the only time that I can think that Catalonia was epic.
Yes.
But I think, yeah, I wouldn't. It's one of those ones where I just wouldn't be that sad to see it go.
No, I wouldn't. It's the reason I kind of included it is because we've been there for so long, and I think if we were creating this calendar, I wouldn't have Catalonia as a race. I also wouldn't have Madrid as a race. That's partly, I would rather be at Catalonia than Madrid. Anyway, Catalonia would be a good pre-season testing place. Just have it for pre-season testing. Do not go to Bahrain for pre-season. Go Catalonia pre-season and then start off.
But I think that's one of the things maybe why Catalonia has been so bad. It's probably a better idea to go somewhere different for pre-season testing because the drivers have so much data on that particular track. It means that the race is just so predictable because it just almost falls into the order of the cars, and that's why you don't really get much chaos there. You don't really get many freak results of drivers maybe lower down the grid being up there because everyone knows what to expect from Catalonia after they've been there for testing. And
they've been there for so long. It's been so many years we've been at that track, and there are better tracks in Spain that now we don't race at and are a bit run down. But I think if we changed it up, if we wanted another Spanish race, we could try invest somewhere else. That would be great. But yeah, Catalonia, put it as pre-season, not on the main race. It's kind of a bit of a boring one.
Mexico is another one that we haven't included.
It's got the unique stadium section, which is cool. I think unique features really appeal to me. It kind of makes it more engaging. But it just, I don't know. I enjoy watching Mexico.
It's not the best driver's track, I don't think. It's like not a lot of elevation change at all.
It's so high up. The altitude is high.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's tricky adapting to it. And there are the features that Mexico has, other tracks also have, that can use those features. So I don't think it's
There's not really many parts of the circuit where you think you need, like we've obviously mentioned Eau Rouge for Belgium, for example, or maybe Maggots and Beckett's for Silverstone. There's not really that iconic racing part of the circuit. Obviously, you mentioned the stadium circuit.
That's not a racing part.
That just surrounds like some trashy chicane or something. So.
I think if we also have, I think part of it would factor in which drivers we have on the grid, because it would be really nice for drivers to have home circuits. So if we had a Mexican driver on the grid, then it makes sense to race in Mexico in some sense. But in our ideal race calendar, our ideal Formula 1 lineup would not have a Mexican on the grid. Therefore, we would not race in Mexico.
We would not. I did think you might be coming on to that you might not include Sergio Perez in your 25.
What? No, crazy.
Qatar, similar arguments, I would say, of just not having that much iconic to it. And obviously Abu Dhabi, which we haven't mentioned, which it's clear that you're just going there for the money, really. There's not, I mean, they have admittedly done some renovations to it, so that just to cut out some of the awful Sector 3s and Sector 2s, and it's a bit like Albert Park, where people might just remember it or look forward to it because it is the finale of an F1 season.
Yes.
But actually, if it was just in the middle of the calendar, there'd be absolutely nothing special about it whatsoever.
Exactly, there wouldn't really be.
If you did it in the daytime, in the middle of the calendar, there would be absolutely nothing to it whatsoever.
I wouldn't tune in. No, but Qatar, I think it has some good elements. It's just we have a lot of races in the Middle East at the moment.
Yes.
And there are better tracks for us to go to in that region, which we will come on to. For me, Qatar isn't a necessity, and it is, again, a money track.
Yes, no, indeed.
Yep. And one you haven't mentioned is Las Vegas. Wow, neither of us
have neither of us got Las Vegas?
No, of course not.
Oh, okay. No,
of course not.
I know, I was debating between it, because to be fair, I don't think Las Vegas has had much of an opportunity to fully show us what it's worth, because we obviously had it last season, and the race there I think was pretty good. I unfortunately didn't get the chance to see it live, so I don't remember much to it, but I know that Will Kingswood and a lot of people did really like the race there.
So I watched it live. I woke up at whatever ungodly hour it was to watch it, and I didn't like it. It was I'm sure I had some bias in it, but it just wasn't, the spectacle is too much for me. I think going to places, sure you want hype, but it's too hype, and it shuts down the city because it's a street circuit, and it's not a street circuit where sections are already pre-made. For example, it's September, like late September now, and they've already shut off the fountain by Caesar's Palace already to do construction ready for the race in November. So I think it's not on my list at all. Sure, having it's a bit of a gimmick, but I wouldn't want it on my ideal calendar.
I think maybe we can see how it poses in the next couple of races, and see how it gets on to probably get a gist of
it. Does have unique areas. For example, it's an upside down pig, which is kind of funny.
I never thought about that, actually. That is, I wonder if that's been in the design process of like, right, what
the designers
what should we base this track around? And
Spider pig.
Yes.
Also, on a personal note, it does always happen around my birthday. So this year it's going to be 6 a.m. on my birthday because it's a Saturday race, and I'm just not looking forward to having to wake up at 6 a.m. on my birthday to watch a Formula 1 race. It's going to be awful. Really fun.
So yeah, apart from being on Katch's birthday and being an upside down pig,
there's not much to it.
Perhaps not much to it. And that covers all of the races that we both haven't included. Now onto the main part where we can like debate what we have, and I know you are ready with guns blazing to defend your race calendar.
I don't actually have too many guns blazed to defend, but
so if you want to go through yours first that weren't on my calendar.
Yes, so I obviously have 19 tracks on mine, and Callum has 16. So there is obviously going to be more tracks that I have included that he hasn't. So the first one is Saudi Arabia and Jeddah. This is controversial because I was not a fan coming here originally. However, it's actually kind of fun track to watch. It brings the drivers so close to the barrier. It creates some great qualifying moments. The racing there is still, in my opinion, kind of fun, and especially, sure, it's towards the night, and it's still very hot though, so tyre strategy is quite interesting in a lot of cases. if they don't stick to a one-stop. So I think it's a cool one to include because I don't want to ditch all the Middle East tracks. But for me, out of the options of Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, if I was to choose two, I would have gone with Bahrain, which we obviously both went with, and Jeddah because it's a fun, up-close street circuit. I haven't actually gone through and highlighted the street circuits that are different from the actual, like, main tracks. What do you call that again?
What is your...
The, like, actual permanent tracks, which is called the permanent tracks.
The permanent track? What,
The permanent circuits.
Oh, what, like actual race circuits, not street circuits?
Yeah.
Just tracks?
Which is called
Race
tracks.
tracks?
I don't know,
So-
there is a difference between
I-
street circuits and permanent.
Yeah, permanent race tracks.
Okay, permanent race
I
tracks.
don't know if there's a special term for it.
I don't know.
So,
I
yeah,
thought there would
as
be.
you're saying, I don't actually really know why I didn't include it, if I'm honest. I think it maybe could be on there.
Yeah, I think the issue is if I was to be put in charge of this race calendar, it would be one I would debate because of the political situation. I think that's something personally for me I would really like to consider. I haven't considered it now because I haven't thought that deeply about it.
We did have some explosion a
Yes.
couple of years ago, which was quite interesting.
Interesting is one way to put
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Dangerous
yeah.
is another.
Yes.
The human rights as well is not incredible, but it's something in future like you consider. But just for creating a fun list like this, for me, it's a fun circuit to go to. It's an interesting one for the drivers and for the fans to watch. So that's why I wanted it on my list.
No, I suppose we could. I'd be happy to maybe substitute Abu Dhabi for that. And you're right. It is quite a narrow and close up to the wall circuit, a lot like Singapore in that sense, which does challenge the drivers. And we have had some really exciting races there. It was my choice for, I think, my favourite race in 2021 with all the chaos that happened there, which Will Kingswood thoroughly disagreed with, and we. But yeah, I can get behind that. Your next one is Imola, which the only reason I didn't include it is because I think it's just maybe a bit of an outdated circuit, a little bit, and
There's an argument there, sure. For me, Italy is such an iconic place for motorsport, and there needs to be. We've obviously both got Monza, but Imola, there are cool features to it, and I think it is a fun one to go to, and it still works in a way for these modern cars, which a lot of places don't on the calendar. So having Imola, I don't know. It's not what I thought too much about, but it's what I wanted to be on there. It's just one that I thought,
I
this
also
works.
don't like the idea of having multiple races at the same country. I don't know why. That just seems weird to me.
I know it does make sense because there's so many circuits and so many countries
Yes.
across the world that can host Formula One races. Having two in one country can be a lot, but if US can do it, which it doesn't in our list, but if US can do it, Italy definitely can.
Yes. Well, America's hosting 3 races currently, which I just...
It's too
we've already
much.
covered that you could get rid of 2 of those.
So there is one left.
Now, you've chosen... So, we both have a German Grand Prix on here, but we've gone with different circuits. And I was debating about putting the Nürburgring on there. I have a soft spot for the Hockenheimring, I think. I think it's just delivered some incredible racing. We obviously know about 2019, which... Admittedly, the weather might have helped a bit, but it was a classic, and even apart from that, moments like Vettel crashing out in 2018, and I would love to see it back on the calendar, and I don't know why. There's obviously been other reasons why it hasn't been included on this year, but I think certainly I would happily put it in a calendar above many of the tracks that we have currently. You've gone for the Nürburgring, which we did have back in 21 or 20?
Yes.
Sometime around there.
I don't think it was 21. I don't remember it being.
We had it for a brief couple of
Yeah.
seasons and then it went away again.
Then it went away again. Obviously, to clarify, it would not be the whole Nürburgring, it would be a shorter version.
Yes.
Which they do have it adapt for. But you have other series going there, which, sure, it's for longer endurance races, but for Formula One, going to... I would be fine with the Hockenheim. I would be really fine with that. I just think a German track is needed, it's a necessity, and Nürburgring gives us that, like, authentic German Formula One vibes. It's a well-known circuit, it's a well-known place.
I was going to say, I suppose it is probably, I think if you think Nürburgring is probably one of the most iconic tracks ever, not even in F1 history, so...
Just motorsport.
It would be just motorsport in general. I think it's so it could be good to say that the F1 race there, and it'd be nice to have F1 back there, I suppose. But
yes, especially because there is a German team in Mercedes. There is usually a German driver on the grid, so I think it is great. It's challenging for drivers in some sense, but it's not like streets circuit challenging, so it provides different opportunities. And yeah, I just think for both of us, I don't think it really matters which track we would go with, but having a race in Germany should happen. Again.
Fair enough. You've gone with Austria.
I have, because it does produce some good races.
That is true. I did consider Austria going into this because there has been quite a few occasions where it's delivered some good racing. I just think it's quite short and it's just quite basic, maybe. Am I being too rude there? I'm not too sure. I don't
think you're being too rude and etc. I think it's a short track, which really doesn't help. Well, for me it helps because I think qualifying is really fun and really intense there, but it's so many laps at that point, which can have different strategies, and there's iconic moments. Again, bit of soft spot for me. I really like the track. I really like going to Austria, and it's in the mountains and everything, so I think it works on the calendar, in my opinion, especially if we were to have a lot of European races, which on both our calendars we probably do, and in the current F1 calendar we have a lot of European races. So I like Austria. I like having the race there.
I think looking at my calendar, I certainly have a preference for drivers' circuits rather than necessarily where it's good to have races there. And I suppose that's maybe one of the reasons why I didn't include Austria. It doesn't seem to have the most unique features for a race. I think for me it's one of those honourable mentions.
That makes sense.
But
I think that is the difference. You've gone for a lot of driver circuits.
Yes.
I've gone for obviously driver circuits and having the variation, but I also thought of it from like a team going there and a fan perspective as well. I think that was a big driving factor for me. When I consider races and tracks that I like, there are things about it I remember, whether that be races we've had or places or features of the track or the circuit or the area. I really enjoy that. So, like, if it's the best racetrack but it's in the middle of a desert, I wouldn't probably include it.
Yes.
So, I think that's a really important factor for me when choosing races. And it's proven. It's a proven good circuit.
That is true. We've had some very good races there. I think this year it was obviously very good between Norris and Verstappen. Maybe not for you, but
it was objectively a good one.
It was indeed. And we've had Leclerc and Verstappen having a quite similar battle there in previous years. I did not include Hungary, which again I think maybe I'm not the biggest fan of Sector 3 there, where it's quite narrow and you're just waiting to get back to... For me, it just feels like you're waiting to get back to Sector 1. And I do also feel that Hungary can be a little hit and miss as well. I think we were quite lucky. Well, this season we had obviously quite a good race there. I think that was mainly due to the drama behind McLaren and the team orders and obviously putting Piastri ahead of Norris, and the only other one I can think of was 2021, but then we did have a lot of really good races then that season. And so it is. I think what I really like about Hungary is it is one of the circuits where there's a very long straight up to turn 1, so the starts are always going to be kind of fun. You've got battles, you've got a bit of chaos like we had in 21. So Bottas going bowling.
Oh, Bottas bowling, bless. That was awful.
My favourite side sport of Formula 1.
Yes, bowling. So I think it can produce some good races. It can produce shockingly boring races, like you've said. So I think it is a good track to go to. Iconically, for the past few seasons, excluding this one, it has been the one before the summer break. and maybe it's not the best one for a before summer break option because it can produce a bit of a boring one. If we had a really exciting track just before summer, that would be great, because then it's like, we're anticipating the next one, we're anticipating summer to be over. But if we were to have a longer calendar, or not longer, but longer than 16, like my calendar is 19, I think it has a good place on there. Maybe I have too many European tracks and we could go to other places. So if I was to cut out a European one, that is one that is on my shortlist. But I think it's a good one.
But then obviously we're not considering calendars that haven't been, we're not considering races that haven't been on F1 at all. So we're only considering previous races.
Yes.
There will obviously be other circuits around different continents that we might come into the calendar later on and might deliver some incredible races. But so far, I think, like you mentioned, maybe Silverstone might be a better one to head into the summer break or be the last race before the summer break with.
Yes.
I think that's the only one I can think of around that time that would. I think I like having Spa after the summer break.
Yes.
So maybe have those two.
It would be good. Iconic one before, iconic one after.
Yeah.
That'd be
finish
quite
it off
nice.
And get it going again. So it's
like Hungary as well. If it's just we're doing the same calendar each year, Hungary is a hit or miss, but I've got it on. If it was a rotation where, like I mentioned previously, that you could have it every other year, alternating with another track, Hungary's definitely on at that point.
Yeah.
Having it every other year would be really fun. Ideal in that circumstance.
And the last one of yours that does not appear on my calendar that you've gone for is Zandvoort.
Yes.
Where I didn't think I even considered this one.
Really?
Maybe because it's... I think it might be good because, like you mentioned, it's nice to have each driver to have a home race. And so I think a big part of maybe going back to Zandvoort is because of the popularity over there, because of Verstappen, obviously.
Yep.
And so... It is obviously nice for drivers to have their home races, but I think, again, it goes, for me, back with Zandvoort, back to that it's maybe not that appropriate for the current generation of F1 cars. It obviously has quite a lot of unique features, like the high amount of banking that you don't see in many other circuits, which I do like, but again, I just think it's a bit too narrow and quite difficult to overtake around that circuit, and maybe a bit limited in terms of its overtaking opportunities.
I don't think you're wrong. For the current generation, it's not as great. I think I really like the banking, and the fact it's so close to the beach is quite cool. When Max eventually retires from F1, I think it's unlikely we will go back there, in my opinion. But for the moment, it's kind of a fun one to have. It's like, we're going to Zandvoort, big crowd, big environment and atmosphere, and it's so cool in that circumstance that you have everyone rallying behind. Dutch fans, just in any sport, just bring the energy and bring the vibe, and that is exactly the same in F1. So if you want a good party, good fun environment with unique features like the banking, if the cars were a bit smaller, 100% it's so cool. The cars are too big, it is a bit too narrow, but I was hesitant when we originally went there. Now, I'm a decent fan of it. It's a pretty cool track, pretty cool race weekend, that.
Just to go back to what you said a minute ago, how does having beaches near it affect the driving?
Because the sand and the wind.
The wind, okay, right.
It's tricky in that sense.
What?
I think having a beach nearby is pretty cool.
I mean, does it? I don't know.
It's like having a harbour at Monaco.
Yeah, I suppose so. But then I think, like, we've already covered that, like, scenery isn't everything. We know that very much so.
Yes, but having a cool scenery.
It's good to add to it, I think.
Yes, having the beach nearby means there is wind, means there is sand, makes it a bit unpredictable.
Yes.
That's kind of fun. I like that.
No, I think so. But in terms of just scenery, I think it's nice to have it with the track, but it shouldn't be the only thing. So like Abu Dhabi, for example, it's just the scenery and the visuals in a way. Whereas with Monaco, it's obviously a great driver's track as well. So then on to my calendar, and there's only 3 of tracks that are on my calendar that haven't been included on Katch's. Hockenheimring we've already discussed. Turkey, which you've got as an honourable mention. We went there in 2021, I believe, and that was the last race we had there. And I don't know, I like Istanbul Park. It's got some
Yeah.
I think it delivers some really good races, especially in 2021. And I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be on the calendar. Like I said, it delivers good races, challenging for the drivers.
I think you're not wrong. I think it was an honourable mention. It was one that I did consider putting on, and I still think probably could deserve a place on the calendar because of everything you've mentioned. It did produce some good races. It's a fun environment. It's a good track. It's challenging, but I don't know. There was ones that maybe I like the familiarity of some of the tracks we already have on the calendar. There are some that obviously, as we mentioned, we get rid of, but a lot of them I have less reason to get rid of to replace it with Turkey. So I don't know, maybe it could be a rotation track in my ideal circumstances, but
you can maybe put it in now that you've got rid of Catalonia. As I think,
yeah, if I wanted
20,
20,
I think I'd certainly have Turkey rather than Catalonia.
yes, in hindsight, 100%. So if we went up to 20, for me, then I would put Turkey on.
And there's certainly a lot of races that we have in the calendar currently which I could replace with Turkey, like the ones that we've already mentioned, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, which I think just delivers a lot better spectacles because of the challenge to the drivers, as we've mentioned. And the last one is China. I think a lot of people kind of debate China. I have a soft spot for it. I think it's got some. We've had some quite exciting races there. I go back to thinking about 2018, where there was a lot of chaos, mainly caused by the two Red Bulls, Ricciardo overtaking well and Verstappen overtaking very poorly. And I think it's quite unique. We're just looking at the circuit map. You've got that little like snail feature there, which I don't know what else to call it, but
it's a snail,
and it's got a fat back straight as well. So
very fat. Is it too fat of a back straight for like sector 3? I don't know.
Side section. How fat is too fat for a back straight?
It's great, good quote.
I do like it. It's got a lot of different sections, and it's I think all round it's a very big challenge for the cars because of the high speed corners, because of the long back straights. It's challenging for the teams in that way. We haven't really talked much, I think, about the challenge to the teams and actually setting up the car, because we've more focused on the drivers. But I don't know, it just has a lot of unique features, like the sector 1 and the hairpin at the end of the back straight as well, which I just really like about China.
Yeah.
And I think I was certainly happy to see it being added back to the calendar this year.
Yeah, because it was dropped off because of COVID and the restrictions there. But yeah, it does have good features, like you mentioned there. But I think those features aren't as unique, and I think they can be found at other circuits.
Yes.
It's a cool one to go to, but I'm not sure. I think on the calendars we're creating, it must be mentioned that Asian countries and Asian circuits are actually really good. We don't give it enough credit. We have incredible races at Singapore. We want Malaysia back, obviously. China's good, Japan's good. So we have a lot of circuits in that area that are great. And it's a similar argument that I've made with the Middle East arguments. You can't have too many, I think.
So you think you think other tracks could deliver
especially
where China also delivers?
Yes.
And deliver a bit more, potentially.
Yeah, it has a soft spot for you in the same sense that Imola has a soft spot for me.
Yes.
So I think it's always going to be a bit biased in that circumstance. If we were to do it objectively, it would be completely different. I think the calendars that would be created would be so different if we just looked at objective stats and race results and everything. But yeah, it's what I can understand. It just doesn't get that place on the calendar for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we've done a very good job there. We've got through a lot of circuits that are on the current F1 calendar that we've had previously, and I think we've done very well, I think, in narrowing it down. Let us know if there are any circuits that we've missed. I think we've gotten the large majority of them. We'll also have a Singapore review that should already be out, which you can tune to after this episode, which we discuss all of the major events that
didn't happen
around Singapore. And we will also soon have a Women in Motorsport episode coming out in a few days' time. But until then, thank you very much for Katch for joining me. I've been your host Callum, and until next time, goodbye.